Labendare is a game making competition where you have 48 or 72 hours to make a game. You can either compete in a jam, which lasts 72 hours, you can use already made assets and work in a team. Or you can participate in a combo, which I participated in. The combo is kinda like Labendare on hard mode. You only have 48 hours, must work alone and must make all assets from scratch within the time frame. So basically a more challenging type of Labendare. For me, the theme is announced in the middle of the night. So when I woke up on the day of Labendare, I immediately looked at what the theme is. And the theme is Unstable. For this theme I literally had no ideas. For most other themes I already had a vague idea of what I wanted to make, but initially for this one I had nothing. After some thinking time I came up with a physics-based balancing game, but figured that a lot of other people would also have this idea, so I ditched that one. Although in the end I actually didn't see many of them. My next idea was a management game with an unstable government of some sort, which you have to keep from collapsing. In the end this might have been a better idea, but I ditched that one as well because I thought its scope was too big for Labendare. In the end I settled for a game in which you have to guide villagers back to safety over unstable bridges, which can only hold a limited amount of people. I think this idea is fine, but I still made the mistake of overscoping it by a lot by making it 3D, especially with my limited 3D knowledge and experience. I started off by planning the game loop and making some sketches of the main character. The first sketch is especially bad, but the second and third one look alright I think. In the end he kinda resembled Link, although I didn't even think of him while making the character. Anyway, I started to sculpt the character in Blender. This took quite a while because the sketch I made wasn't the best. I experimented with giving the character 3D eyes, but they just looked bad, so I decided to just later paint them on. I also did things I never did before, like here using path nodes for the character's hair. After sculpting the character's body, I also had to make some clothes. For this I duplicated parts of his body and expanded them slightly. Then I again sculpted them to fit the character. Then I also modeled some boots. The boots are just modeled directly in edit mode because it's way faster. This here is the final sculpted character. Now you might think that I can just plonk him into Unity and start making the game, but because I sculpted him, he has way too many triangles. So the next step is basically to remake the whole character with fewer triangles. This step is called retopologizing. I basically just create faces manually with the intent to match the sculpted character as closely as possible, while also having the fewest amount of triangles as possible. All of this took a really long time. The smart thing in Game Jam would have been to skip the whole planning and sculpting step and model the character directly in edit mode. The next step is UV unwrapping. This is basically the process of cutting the character up and laying him out on a flat plane, so you can paint him. For this I marked the seams on the character, basically the edges you cut along, and then let Blender figure out how to best put the pieces onto a flat plane. Then in the painting step I just painted the faces directly onto the 3D model. For the eyes I tried a bunch of different designs, but most of them just looked bad, so in the end I just used the one for my sketch. After that was done, I gave him some bones and animations and then, finally, almost at the end of day 1, put him into Unity. Now day 1 was almost over and I still haven't started on the actual game. So as the last thing of the day, I tried to make the core gameplay loop in the remaining time of the first day. And I actually did it. All within about 2 hours. The core gameplay loop worked and with that I went to bed. Day 2 started and I still had a lot of things to do, cause well, there was still one critical thing missing from my game. The unstable bridges. Currently you just escort villagers to the goal and win, but you can't actually lose. Thankfully the bridges were a huge pain to implement. I made some particle effects, wrote some code to determine how many people are on the bridge, and with that the bridge was done. Then the next thing I did was the UI for selecting levels. This was kind of a pain to do because of the scrollable list of playable levels. Thankfully I had another project available to figure out how you can set it up correctly. The next task was to actually make levels. For this I modeled a rock and a bridge for the environment and made some levels with those. One last thing I also squeezed into the time frame was an intro cutscene that provides a backstory, although it is quite bad. Okay, it was late at night, I know the voice acting isn't great. I mainly just wanted to experiment with Cinemachine and Timeline. At least this is also a small opportunity to see all the details I modeled into the character, which you can't actually see in the game because the camera is so far away. Now anyway. I added some tutorial text, made the UI prettier with a new font and then called my game done. I worked right till the end of the jam and almost missed the submission period because of another problem I had while exporting the game, but otherwise it went well. Now in retrospect, while the scope of the game might have been fine, the decision of making the character by sculpting was definitely the wrong one. While sculpting characters can produce better results, it also takes a lot more time. If I would have modeled him directly in edit mode, I could have basically skipped the whole sculpting process and saved a ton of time, even if the resulting character would have been slightly worse. In conclusion, I'm still happy with the end result. I learned a bunch of things regarding modeling, Cinemachine, timeline and coding, even if the final game didn't live up to the vision from the beginning. It's now at the end of the rating phase and I must say, got some great feedback on my game with new ideas for gameplay mechanics like rotating bridges or time-based bridges. This is the amazing thing about Lambda, you always get great feedback with new ideas you haven't even thought of yet and a ton of new motivation to bring your games forward. In this Lambda I scored in the middle, which I already kind of expected. The gameplay in my game is really basic, mainly because I didn't have that much time in the end and the gameplay mechanics don't really offer that much depth. While I won't continue working on this game concept, I already have ideas for implementing some of its mechanics into other games I'm working on. Thank you for watching the video. Loop at Devlogs will soon continue. I'm just currently working on some more challenging parts of the game, particularly my hosting solution. I also currently have a lot of other stuff going on besides game development, which slows things down as well. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. Thank you as always for watching and see you again for the next video.